The barn is very, very old. I don't know when it was actually built, but I mean, the house, the farmhouse, dates from the 1600s. This barn was there then. It's built of oak. The main structure of the barn is built of oak. Many of the beams in the barn have been burnt. They've got a black coating of charcoal on them. It either means they were from a former barn which probably burnt down and used again, or some of the timbers were often ship's timbers which were taken off when ships were broken up. The timbers were used to build barns with when they were no longer used for shipping. The actual structure of the barn is made of oak, and the boards on the barn are made of elm. These boards are very, very, very old. You can see how gnarled and they're hard as iron now. They're all attached to the barn by blacksmith-made nails. Every nail handmade by a blacksmith. The beams, the uprights, were infilled with wattle and daub. Wattle and daub are basically hazel rods about an inch in diameter, nailed to the uprights, and then a mixture of clay, horsehair, or even straw that would be plastered onto the hazel rods, and that would form a wall. It was originally built, I suppose, as a storage barn for sheaves of corn. You couldn't thrash corn when it was wet outside, but you could in the barn. The floor we're standing on now is made of brick, locally made white Suffolk bricks, laid on edge, and this would be called the middle stre of the barn. It runs right through the middle. The whole barn was full of unthreshed wheat or barley. In early days, they would bring it into the middle here and thrash it by hand. My first recollections of the barn were of my father feeding horses in the barn. It was the stables in those days, in the war years, and he kept 6 horses in the barn. You never kept horses on brick. You only kept horses, the Suffolk horses, on chalk. That was to help the feet. There was never a hard floor. It was a chalk floor. The other end of the barn, was the far end, was where they kept the fodder, or the chaff as we call it. The chaff was mixed up in the middle of the barn, which is called the middle stre, and there the chaff was mixed with grain and other materials to make up the horses' feed. And this was then given to the horses in a slate manger. The slate was used in horse mangers mainly to stop them eating the bottoms out. If you just put wood in, the horses would gnaw through the wood in a matter of days. But slate was clean and the horses wouldn't eat it. I don't know how they got slate from Wales to here, but they did, somehow or other. I can remember my father working in the barn with the horses in the early war years, and then when he sold up, or he retired in 1950, it was used for general storage, and then when the combines came in the 50s, it was used for storing grain in sacks. And from grain in sacks, it was grain in bins until I retired. And now it's sort of it's a party barn. Hundreds of people have worked in that barn, hundreds of people. Absolutely hundreds, I'm sure there have been. I'm quite sure of that.